Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This video I'm going to talk about a tool called a pogo stick. Now, I don't know what the official name is, maybe a leverage bar, but I've always known of it as a pogo stick. That's all I've ever called it. It's a hunk of pipe with a couple hooks on it. It's got a cushioned foot and it comes with a chain. And I've had this thing forever. Another one of my antique tools that I bought new. And I've used this thing for years before I finally figured out how to correctly use it. So I'm going to do a breakdown here and show you how everybody uses it, me included, for years, and what I discovered after probably 20 years. The main thing these pogo sticks get used for, I think, is trying to line up the front end of a car. They're really handy on a core support, trying to get them squared up. So you'll take a chain, put it in a bolt hole here. Now this is a headlamp mounting spot, so make sure the bolt is snug down on there so it holds this hook on the end of the chain flat. You don't want the bolt sticking up and just putting a hook on there anywhere. It'll bend that bolt out, it'll twist that mounting point. So make sure it's snugged up. Next thing, put the bar on here, and this is how I've always done it. And from putting a lot of pressure on this over the years, you can see how this bar is bent. And the factory, when they build these, they even put this small piece of angle iron for a rib underneath there to stiffen it up. So every one I've ever seen, everybody's pogo stick is usually bent from years of use. And I could never figure out why they had this small hook up here. You get this one down at the bottom and you've got about over 3 foot of leverage there. This top one never made any sense to me. So you take and you push on this, and some of these core supports are pretty tough, and I mean, you can do a lot of pushing on here, or pulling, and you'll hang on it and everything else to get stuff to move. And then one day I finally figured out how to make it a lot easier. That's where this other hook comes in. Let me show you. By using this back hook and dropping this pogo stick down real low, it's just a slight angle now between the chain and the bar. And this, you're basically using now the whole length of the bar for leverage. It takes less pressure to put on here to get something to move. You're not just using the end of this bar, now you're using the whole thing. So in doing so, it's almost like the gears in a rear end on a truck. You're going to have a set of gears that are going to turn faster, but you're going to get more power out of it. Well, it's kind of the same thing. You're changing the angles in here and the pressure point, so you're not going to have to move this bar as much, but you're going to get more power out of it. I don't know if I'm explaining it very good there. You almost have to try it to see what I'm talking about. There we're a little bit too low. But if we come up here now, we're not going to bend the bar because there's really no pressure on the center of it. It's from the end to end. And you can push on this and a lot less pressure to get something to move. You're not going to bend anything. Actually, I had to weld this up years ago. There's a plate welded in here because this thing gets split from all the pressure I put on it. And it always made sense to me that's how you do it. Once I figured this out, it's rare that I use that unless I've got a point where I can get my base really close up high and come in here and catch this. And that just it'll work, but not real good there. You'd almost have to be right up underneath it for that to work. But give that a try next time you're using yours and see if that doesn't work better. Now, if you're working on a vehicle and you got a new core support in here and you tram it with a tram gauge or a tape measure and you find out it's out of square, it's not the core support. You got to go back to start and find out why your frame is off. You shouldn't have to bend a new core support. If you've got a plastic core support, you don't want to use anything like this on it. You're going to bust it. So if you want to square something up with the core support, it's usually an existing core support It was probably damaged above the bumper and it shifted over. So you can come along the side here and you can catch the end of the rebar. Once again, we're going to drop this down. Keep this angle pretty low in here, and we can pull the front end over. And go a little at a time. Don't just put all your body weight on there and pull it over. If you need 3 or 4 millimeters, go a little at a time. And it's no big deal if you over pull it. Go on the other side, pull it back. And I've talked about this in my frame repair series about squaring up the front end. Before you get this trimmed out, you have to make sure your length is good. So double check that ahead of time, and you can adjust the length just like I showed before with the pogo stick on the front. But these things have 1,000,001 uses. You can use them on straightening body panels, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But that's the main thing I wanted to talk about in this video with these pogo sticks, is using the correct hook. And I don't think a lot of guys realize that. Like I said, I did it for years. I used it for years before I figured out it's a lot easier to do it this way. It takes a lot less pressure on it. So let's see another hookup with this thing. Here's another good place where a pogo stick works. Say if this quarter panel is pushed in, wheelhouse is pushed in a little bit. Got these pullers here. Now usually these are meant for on the frame machine, but if it's slight damage, you can get enough leverage with the pogo stick, it'll work great. Hook that up in there. We want to put the end of the pogo stick up on the frame rail. I don't want to put it on the strut. Sometimes the frame rail a little bit tough to get to, but we can get in there a good angle. Come back here, and we keep this angle nice and low, close together here. And it's usually enough, if it's not too much damage in here, you can pull this quarter panel out with the wheel off the car. Make sure you've got a jack stand underneath it, and that also helps keep the car from moving while you're pushing on this. Same way if you're trying to bend the core support out and it's pretty stiff and the car wants to bounce a little bit in the front, put your floor jack underneath somewhere, support that up, keep that thing from moving. But you can do a lot of repairing on a quarter panel like this. You can work this thing around, move the pogo stick if you need it, keep them pretty much in line with each other so you can push straight down. But yeah, it'll work real good. And in this case here, this hook wouldn't do you any good anyway. It's just too far up, too far forward. And like I said, I very seldom use that hook anymore. Always go with the rear one. Kind of on a side note, the first time I seen a pogo stick, I was working in a shop probably about 1979. Guy I worked with had one, and this guy weighed around 425 pounds. Now, I'm not saying he was fat, but he just wasn't really tall. And I'd seen him with his pogo stick, and I mean, back in '79, cars were cars. There was a lot of metal in them. They were a lot tougher to bend. And he was pulling on a core support, and he would have that thing stretched out, and he would lay his stomach across the end of this pogo stick and hang on it, and his feet were off the ground. And he looked like he was just floating there in air because you couldn't even see the pogo stick, he was so big. And he's bouncing on that thing, and I thought, man, if that chain ever lets loose, he probably won't get himself up off the floor, and I don't think I could do him much help either. But it was just kind of one of those funny things I always remembered. But again, getting back to these pogo sticks, the amount of work you can do with these, and as versatile as they are, they're fairly inexpensive. I haven't priced one, but I'm guessing 150 bucks. And this is just one of these tools, again, that you just can't do without. You'll find 1,000,001 uses for them. So anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.